To Dust. Written by Kristen Mullings. 2025 copyright. Chapter 28, The Well of Souls. The well was not what I imagined. It was not a mystical oasis of power, or a fountain of ethereal beauty. No, the well was a hollowed-out wound in the fabric of existence itself. It stretched infinitely before us, a bottomless rift where the earth itself had crumbled into nothingness. The air around it was thick with a strange, searing warmth that hummed like 1,000 voices crying out in unison. Kael stood beside me, his hand on the blade now fused to our fates. His dark eyes stared into the abyss that stretched out before us, as though trying to peer into the heart of what lay ahead. I could feel his pulse through our shared bond, faster than it had been moments before. Whatever was coming, whatever awaited us, was too great to comprehend. Even Kael, the demon prince who had known endless battles, was unnerved. This place, I whispered, my voice barely carrying over the crackling air. It's not just a doorway, is it? Kael exhaled slowly, the sound almost lost in the chaos of the well's presence. No, Seren. It's a prison. A gateway, yes. But also a trap, for us and for anyone who dares to face it. I could feel the threads within me stirring, like dormant flames being sparked back to life. The ebon blade, the blade that had bonded us, was humming, its pulse aligning with the rhythm of the well itself. It was as though the blade knew the well intimately, like it had been forged for this very purpose. Will we survive this? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Kael's gaze never wavered. We must. Because the price of failure is not just our lives, Seren. It's everything. The realms, the bonds of magic, the very fabric of this world, all of it will unravel. He took a step forward, his long cloak fluttering in the windless air, and I followed him, my heart pounding as we moved closer to the edge of the well. My fingers curled around the ebon blade's hilt, the bond between us tightening with each step. The closer we got, the more I could sense the multitude of souls trapped within the well. They were not just spirits, not just the ghosts of the past, they were ancient, powerful entities. Demons. Witches. Beasts. Every being that had ever touched the realms of magic seemed to be imprisoned here, their voices lost in the abyss. Kael, can you feel them? I asked, the weight of their collective presence pressing down on me. He nodded once. They are waiting for something. The pact, the balance. We are the key. I closed my eyes for a moment, centering myself as I tried to push back the overwhelming sensation. The threads inside me flared, swirling with new intensity. The ebon blade had connected us in ways that defied understanding, but there was something more now, an undercurrent of magic, something ancient and almost predatory, pulling at my very core. The well seemed to breathe. The shadows within it shifted, taking form in whispers, murmurs, and distorted cries. We have to keep moving, Kael said, his voice suddenly sharp. If we hesitate, if we don't take the final step, everything will collapse. I didn't question him. We both knew what was at stake. We both knew that stepping into the well meant surrendering ourselves, body and soul. There was no turning back now. Not when the realms were on the brink of destruction. With a final breath, I stepped into the abyss. The sensation was immediate and all-consuming. The world twisted, contorted, and stretched out of shape. A wild rush of magic surged through me, pouring through my body like molten fire. It was too much to hold on to, too much to comprehend, but I grasped at the threads, pulling them through the chaos, attempting to hold onto something solid. Kael's presence was a lifeline. His hand brushed mine, and in that moment, everything settled. The searing fire of the magic seemed to calm, just enough for me to catch my breath. We were no longer standing in the well. We were within it. We were surrounded by the very heart of the magic that had birthed the realms themselves. I could feel it, the ancient power that had created the balance. The forces that had long since been forgotten, locked away in the depths of this place. It surged around us, pulling at the very fabric of our beings. Stay focused, Kael said, his voice echoing in the chaos around us. This is the test, Seren. This is where we prove ourselves. The threads inside me pulsed in response to his words, and I could feel the connection between us deepen. Our bond was more than just our blood, more than the magic that flowed between us. It was the essence of who we were, woven into the very soul of the realms. I turned to him, searching his eyes for any sign of doubt, but there was none. Kael was resolute, determined to face whatever came next. Whatever challenge awaited us, we would face it together. The ground beneath our feet rippled like liquid. And then, from the depths of the well, something rose. A figure. A shape. At first, it was nothing more than a shadow, a dark outline against the swirling chaos of the magic. But as it grew closer, the figure began to take form. It was a creature unlike anything I had ever seen before. Its body was an amalgamation of various beings, stitched together in grotesque patterns. It towered over us, its eyes glowing with a fierce, unnatural light. "Who dares to enter the well?" it spoke, its voice a guttural growl that seemed to vibrate through the very air around us. "We do," Kael replied, stepping forward, his voice unshaken. "We seek the balance. We seek the final binding of the pact." The creature's eyes narrowed, its features shifting as though it was weighing our worth. "The price of the pact is steep," it warned. "To bind the realms, to break the chains of the past, you must pay the ultimate cost." I felt a sharp, jagged pain in my chest as the words echoed around me. The magic of the well seemed to draw tighter, and I could feel the threads within me stretching, pulling, threatening to snap. But I did not waver. I could not. "What is the cost?" I asked, my voice steady despite the fear that coiled around my heart. The creature's lips curled into something like a smile, if it could be called that. "The ultimate cost is sacrifice," it said. "One must surrender all that they are to seal the fate of the realms." Kael's hand clenched around the hilt of the ebon blade. "We are prepared," he said. "We will make the sacrifice. We will see this through." The creature's smile grew. "Very well," it said. "Then prove it. Show that you are worthy of the pact." Suddenly, the well exploded in a surge of magic, and the creature lunged forward, its massive form crashing toward us. We did not hesitate. The creature's form loomed above us, the sheer mass of it threatening to crush everything in its path. Kael was the first to react, his sword drawn in a flash of dark steel. He swung it with precision, but the creature was fast, shifting and twisting like liquid darkness. It howled, its many eyes glinting with malice, and a wave of dark energy radiated from it, crashing against us. I raised my hand instinctively, calling upon the threads, twisting them into a shield of woven magic to block the incoming wave. The force of the creature's power struck hard, pushing me back, but I held my ground, the threads thrumming with raw energy. They fought against the overwhelming power of the well, but it was like holding back an avalanche with a single strand of silk. Kael charged forward, his dark horns catching the light of the swirling magic. He moved like a blur, his blade striking with ferocity, but the creature dodged and retaliated with unnatural speed, its jagged limbs tearing through the air. Its claws raked the ground, sending tremors through the very fabric of reality. I had to act. I couldn't let Kael face this alone. I surged forward, my threads unraveling from my fingertips like whips of magic. The creature lashed out, but I was faster this time, my threads snapping around its form, binding it in place. I could feel the strength of its spirit, a fractured thing, held together by ancient sorcery, and I knew it was more than just a mindless monster. It was a guardian, a keeper of the well, and its power came from the pact that had bound the realms together. The creature screeched, struggling against the threads that wrapped around its limbs, but it was not enough. We needed to destroy it. We needed to sever its hold on the well. "Kael, now!" I shouted. He didn't need any further prompting. He leaped into the air, the ebon blade glowing with an otherworldly light, as it cleaved through the air. The blade struck true, piercing the creature's chest with a violent explosion of black energy. The creature howled, its body writhing in pain, as it began to unravel, pieces of it disintegrating into the very air. But it wasn't enough. The well began to pulse with an even darker energy, the walls of reality bending and warping as the creature's death sent ripples through the very fabric of the realms. The creature's body dissolved into shadows, but something remained, a lingering presence that seemed to taunt us. "Not yet," Kael muttered, his eyes narrowing as the ebon blade continued to hum with power. "It's not finished. It's just a part of the greater force holding the well together." I felt the ground shift beneath me, the very air thickening with pressure, as though the entire world was holding its breath. The creature's death had not sealed the well. It had only broken the surface. A low rumble echoed through the chamber, and the air around us crackled with energy. The walls of the well seemed to close in, tightening around us like the jaws of some ancient beast. The spirits of the past, demons, witches, and lost souls, began to gather in the space around us, their voices rising in a mournful chorus. "They are trying to stop us," I whispered, feeling the oppressive weight of the souls pushing against us. "We can't let them hold us back." Kael looked at me, his eyes burning with determination. "Then we move forward," he said. "Together. No matter what." I nodded, feeling the threads inside me flare to life. The ebon blade thrummed in my hand, and I could feel its power coiling within me, resonating with the magic that surged through the well. With one final push, we both surged forward, our combined power tearing through the space between us and the heart of the well. The souls pressed against us, their cold, whispering voices trying to drag us back, but we refused to be deterred. The well loomed before us, its core a swirling vortex of dark energy. The air was thick with the weight of countless lives, countless pacts, and countless sacrifices. This was the heart of it all. The source of the pact, the place where the balance had been struck, where the realms had been bound together in chains of magic and blood. I reached out with my threads, feeling for the very core of the well, for the pulse of magic that had held everything in place for centuries. I could feel it now, a heartbeat echoing through the fabric of reality itself. It was fragile, so fragile. "We have to sever it," I said, my voice strained with the effort of holding onto the threads. "We have to break the chain." Kael nodded, his expression grim. "And we have to do it before the realms collapse in on themselves." Together, we stepped into the center of the well, our powers merging into one. The ebon blade glowed with blinding light, casting strange shadows around us. The threads in my hands twisted and spiraled, the magic surging through me, and for the first time, I felt the full weight of the pact we had forged. The energy around us trembled. I could feel the threads of fate, of magic, unraveling at the edges of the well. The very laws of the universe seemed to buckle under the pressure. I pushed forward, urging Kael to keep pace, to hold fast to our shared bond. We couldn't afford to fail, not now. The vortex at the center of the well began to expand, a maw of endless void threatening to swallow everything. The souls that had gathered around us clawed at the air, their voices rising in desperate pleas, but I ignored them. There was no going back. With a final cry, I thrust my hands forward, weaving the threads into a final, devastating knot. The energy that surged through me was blinding, burning my very soul as I pushed the threads into the heart of the well. The air around us shattered as the ebon blade pulsed with a violent shockwave, and the world trembled beneath our feet. I heard Kael's voice, fierce and unwavering. "Now?" In that moment, the well erupted. A blast of pure energy shot through the chamber, the walls of reality cracking and splintering like glass. Time itself seemed to slow as the force of the blast pushed us both backward, sending us sprawling across the ground. I couldn't breathe. I could barely think. But I knew. I knew we had done it. The well had been severed. And with it, the chains that bound the realms together had broken. Chapter 29, The Shattered Realms. The storm had passed, but the skies above were no longer the same. The world we had known, the world of demons, witches, pacts, and the delicate balance that held them all together, was unraveling. I could feel it in the air, in the very fabric of magic itself. The pulse of the well had been severed, and the aftermath was rippling through every realm, every corner of existence. The ground beneath us shifted, trembling as if the very world were uncertain of its own foundation. The ebon blade, now a dull and lifeless weight in my hand, hummed faintly, a remnant of the power it had once held. Kael stood beside me, his form still radiating an eerie glow from the pact we had forged together, but the energy that had once burned within him now seemed to flicker, as though something vital had been extinguished. "Is it over?" I asked, my voice a whisper, carried away by the wind that swept through the ruined halls of the Bladehold Citadel. Kael's eyes were distant, his expression unreadable. He had always been a force of nature, imposing, powerful, untouchable, but now, there was a vulnerability in him that I had never seen before. His haunts had grown longer, and his skin still shimmered with the remnants of the pact, but the fire in his eyes had dimmed. "It's not over," he said, his voice low and heavy. "We've broken the well, but something's coming." I could feel it too. The world was changing. I reached out to the threads, trying to sense the shifting currents of magic, but it was like trying to catch the wind in my hands. The connection I had once felt to the threads was fractured, as if the very magic that flowed through me had been severed along with the well. "The realms are destabilizing," I said, my heart pounding in my chest. Without the well, the balance is gone. The pacts are unraveling. It's not just demons and witches, it's everything. Kael nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon where the sky had begun to crack open, leaking strange, shimmering light. The world itself seemed to be tearing apart at the seams, and I could feel the weight of its unraveling press down on me. I can hear them, Kael said, his voice strained. The demons, the witches, they are calling out. The bonds are breaking, and they are coming for us. I turned to face him, the fear rising in my chest. Who's coming for us? The ones who've been waiting, he said. The ones who have been hidden in the shadows, waiting for the well to fall. The ones who won't let this break go unpunished. I could feel it now, the pull of something dark and ancient, something that had been waiting in the forgotten corners of the realms. Something powerful, something that could end everything. I stepped closer to Kael, my heart racing. What do we do? Kael looked at me, his gaze intense, his eyes burning with a cold fire. We fight. The ruins of the Bladehold citadel were silent now, the once thriving stronghold of demons and witches reduced to a crumbling shadow of its former self. The air was thick with tension, the world holding its breath as the forces that had once kept everything in balance began to fall apart. We have to go, Kael said, his voice sharp with urgency. We need to find the others before it's too late. I nodded, my mind racing as I tried to process the enormity of what had just happened. The well was gone, the pacts were breaking, and we had no idea what horrors might be unleashed as a result. The power we had unleashed, our own pact, our bond, was a part of that chaos, and I feared we might be the catalyst for something far worse than we could imagine. We made our way through the desolate halls of the citadel, the only sound the echo of our footsteps against the cold stone. The atmosphere was oppressive, the air heavy with the weight of what had happened. The ebon blade pulsed faintly in my hand, its power still lingering, but I could feel its connection to me waning, like a fading ember. As we reached the outer gates, I felt the ground tremble beneath us again, and I heard the distant sound of wings, too many wings. A shadow fell over the citadel. We are not alone, Kael murmured. I turned, my heart skipping a beat as I saw them. Dark figures emerged from the swirling light in the sky, descending with a quiet, terrifying grace. They were creatures of shadow, their forms indistinct, shifting in and out of reality like living nightmares. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and their voices, when they spoke, sounded like the whispers of 1,000 souls, twisted and distorted. They were coming for us. You should have left it alone, witch, one of the creatures hissed, its voice like the scrape of metal against bone. I didn't need to ask who they were. They were the ones who had been waiting. The ones who had been lurking in the dark corners of the realms, watching as the balance of the worlds shifted. They were the ones who had been bound by the well, their power restrained by the ancient pact. And now they were free. We didn't break it, I said, my voice firm, though my heart was pounding. We only severed the chains. The well was a prison for all of us, and now we are all free. The creature's laugh was chilling. Freedom. You think you've freed yourself? The well held us all in check. Without it, the realms will collapse. Everything will burn. Kael stepped forward, his sword raised. Then we'll fight to the end. The creatures spread out around us, their forms shifting and changing as they prepared to attack. I could feel the surge of power building, the magic pulsing through the air. I called upon the threads once more, weaving them into a shield around us. The battle was about to begin. The creatures lunged, and we met them with everything we had. The fight was unlike anything I had ever experienced. These creatures, these beings of shadow, were more than just mindless monsters. They were ancient, their power drawn from the very fabric of the realms, and they fought with an intensity that threatened to overwhelm us at every turn. Kael was a whirlwind of motion, his sword cutting through the air with precision as he faced down the creatures. His strikes were like thunder, each one landing with a crack that reverberated through the ground beneath us. But no matter how many he struck down, more appeared, emerging from the rifts in reality that seemed to multiply around us. I was no less fierce, my threads slicing through the air, cutting through the creatures like knives through silk. But the magic I wielded was weakening, fading with each strike I made. Kael! I shouted, my voice strained. We need to get out of here. He didn't answer, his focus completely consumed by the battle. But I could see the toll it was taking on him. The weariness in his movements, the fading light in his eyes. We couldn't keep fighting like this. Suddenly, a massive shadow loomed above us, and I turned just in time to see a colossal creature descending from the sky. Its form was massive, its eyes burning with ancient fury. It was unlike any demon I had ever seen, a creature of pure destruction, its presence a force of nature. Seren! Kael yelled. Get back! But it was too late. The creature struck with a roar, its claws crashing down like thunder, and everything went black. Chapter 30, The Final Eclipse. The world was falling apart. I could feel it in the very air around me, thick with the scent of death, despair, and ruin. The battlefield stretched before me, a wasteland where the remnants of broken realms clashed and crumbled into nothing. Kael and I had stood side by side, fighting against impossible odds, but now, the light was dimming, fading. The battle was over. Or perhaps it was just the beginning of the end. The creature above us had come down like a dark omen, its massive form blocking the light, casting everything in shadow. I had fought against it with everything I had, my threads searing through the air, cutting through the beast's flesh, but it had been too powerful, too ancient. The weight of its existence seemed to press down on me, crushing my spirit as I struggled to stand. Kael had been right beside me, his sword blazing with fire, his strength a beacon in the storm. He had been my rock, my constant. But as the creature's massive claws had struck, I saw him falter. A moment of weakness, a split second too late. Kael! I screamed, my heart racing as I saw him stagger, blood seeping from the wound on his side. His once fiery gaze was dimming, the light leaving him, and in that moment, I knew. I knew it was happening. The bond between us, the pact we had forged, the sacrifice we had made, it was taking its toll. No. I reached for him, but the ground beneath me cracked, sending me sprawling to my knees. He reached for me, his hand trembling. Seren, you need to finish this. I could barely hear him over the roar of the winds that howled through the battlefield. My world was spinning, the edges of my vision blurring as I tried to focus on him, on us, on everything that we had fought for. Kael, don't, please. His smile was weak, but there was a quiet strength in it, a finality. I'm sorry. I couldn't hold on much longer. And then, as I watched in horror, his form began to flicker, his body flickering like a dying flame. No. No. I shouted, crawling toward him, but it was as if the world itself was pulling us apart. His body grew lighter, his form losing substance, until, like dust on the wind, he began to disintegrate, his skin turning to ash, his bones to powder. Kael! My voice broke, cracking under the weight of the devastation. I reached for him, but my hands grasped only air, only the remnants of what had once been him. His essence, his soul, was slipping away, dissolving before my very eyes. He was dying. No, he was already gone. My breath came in ragged gasps, my chest tight, as my hands trembled at my sides. I could feel it then, the force pulling at me, at the very core of me. The bond we had forged in fire, in blood, in sacrifice, it was still there, stronger than ever. And it was pulling me in, pulling me toward him. I didn't want to lose him. I couldn't. But the truth was inescapable. I was losing him. I had already lost him. And yet, he was still there. I could feel him. Inside of me. The magic we had shared, the pact we had bound ourselves to, it wasn't just fading away. It was merging, flowing into me. My hands shook as the power surged through me, the black threads of Kael's magic intertwining with mine. No. No. I cried out again, my voice raw with grief. But it didn't matter. I could feel it now, more clearly than ever. Kael was gone. And yet he was here. Inside me. The world was spinning, the battlefield fading away, and all that was left was the pulsing, thrumming power that had once belonged to Kael. I closed my eyes, my mind spiraling into a void, until all I could feel was him. His essence. His soul. I felt the last remnants of him slipping into me, his power seeping into my very bones. I could feel the weight of it, the darkness, the strength, the anger, the fire. It was consuming me, filling the empty spaces he had left behind. I could feel his horns, his dark magic, his rage, his grief, all of it weaving into me, becoming part of me. And then, just as the last of Kael's form turned to dust, I realized what had happened. The black horns. The sharp edges of his power. The depth of the void inside me. It was all mine now. I could feel it, his power, his rage, his soul, flowing through my veins, like a storm that couldn't be contained. His eyes, his once blazing, fiery eyes, were now mine. The darkness had claimed me. I was Kael. And Kael was me. I stood there, unmoving, my body trembling as the finality of the moment settled over me. The battlefield was silent now, the wind still, the storm gone. All that remained was the void, the empty space where everything had once been. And then, I whispered the words that had been on my lips since I had first realized the truth. To dust. The words fell from my mouth like a prayer, a lament, a curse. Kael had turned to dust, and in his place, inside me, there was nothing but the echo of him. The echo of everything he had been. The echo of everything I had lost. It was done. I had absorbed him. His essence. His soul. The cost of the pact we had made, the price of everything we had sacrificed, had taken its toll. And yet, as I stood there, as I felt the weight of his power surge through me, there was no sense of triumph. No joy in my victory. Only the bitter, hollow ache of loss. I was no longer just Seren. I was something darker now. I felt it deep inside of me, the shift, the change, the damnation. I had lost him. And I had lost myself. The end.